He's never lost. He's not gonna lose. You know, it's really important to understand God's motives. He doesn't beat the devil to show the devil he can't win. He pounds the devil for you. It's on our behalf that God conquers over and over and over. See, God doesn't have any insecurities about whether or not he can win. He already knows I'm stronger. He wins over and over and over and over and over for you and me. Because he knows that we do have insecurity. And he knows that we do have weakness. You can be seated today. God bless you. It's good to see everybody in the house of God. Good to have all of our guests. Looks kind of full in here. The parking lot looks like a zoo. Just need God to make a way. And I believe he will. I believe he will. I started a new series last week that I'm going to continue called Direction Determines Your Destiny. This is a little phrase that came to me years ago as we were teaching the Blessing of Boundary series. Because I began to just see this picture of where society is and how we got here. And we didn't get here by accident. We got here by pointing our society in this direction. When I say we, I mean America, Western society. We didn't get here by happenstance. And our arrival at such a day of confusion was completely predictable. Matter of fact, Christians have been saying for years, if you keep messing with things that are foundational to the family and to civilization itself, there's going to be painful ramifications. And here we are. Because direction determines your destiny. Now, I've heard a few times, I'll bet you have too, the order, look where you're going. Have you ever heard that? Most adults don't hear it too often, but their kids do. Because kids walk into stuff looking this way or that way. Especially toddlers. They'll bounce off a wall and fall flat on their behind. Or they'll bounce off of a piece of furniture and here come the tears. Well, honey, if you had just been looking where you were going, that wouldn't have happened. A text comes while you're driving and whoever's in the passenger seat doesn't appreciate you reading it and responding, and they say, look where you're going. Because they're concerned about the fact that where you're going, I'm going too. And if you go find a tree, we both found the tree. I see teenagers walking around looking down at their phone instead of looking where they're going. And it's rather predictable. You'll see them trip on a stair, miss a step down, and suddenly they're a puddle on the floor because they weren't looking where they were going. The reality is that we all have a preferred destination in life. But you will never get there looking somewhere else. You can tell me, I want to go to heaven. But you'll go where you're looking. I've seen an awful lot of Christian folk who were Christians most of the time, or a lot of the time, or some of the time. But there are also a lot of times where they were looking to the right or to the left, caught up in something that attracted their attention from a world that is inherently lost and sinful. And I want to go to heaven, but then there comes the but this and but that. And the reality is this: direction determines your destiny. And you will go where you're looking. So if you don't look in the right place. So today I just want to tell you, look where you're going. Just look where you're going. Every year the people came. Droves of them. Hundreds, thousands. Clogging up the city. Filling up what little accommodations would have been available for rental or purchase in such an ancient time. Passover week, they filled the city of Jerusalem. Other feast weeks they came. They came from all over the nation. They came from other nations, Jews that had been scattered throughout that part of the world, returning back to Jerusalem in order to engage in the feasts and the worship that accompanied those weeks and those times. And they traveled from everywhere. They traveled in dangerous conditions. They faced natural dangers, a pounding, burning sun as they crossed a desert, predatory wildlife that hadn't eaten in way too long, dangerous, treacherous roads and paths that hugged the side of mountains and valleys. Oftentimes it was not an easy trip. Still they came. Every year they came. Jewish people coming to Jerusalem from every direction, ascending from the valleys that surround the hills and the mountains that Zion or the city of Jerusalem sits atop. They were pilgrims. And tradition says, it's probably stronger than tradition. Tradition says they sang songs as they traveled, making their way from wherever they came from to Jerusalem for Passover week to celebrate the fact that God was a deliverer and that they lived now in a land that they had not occupied in the past, that God had provided for them and given to them. They came and they sang as they traveled. They worshiped on the way. And beginning with the 120th Psalm, flowing all the way to the 134th, 15 Psalms that are each described at their beginning as a song of degrees. Your New King James Bible would call it a song of ascents. Colloquial language would call it songs of the climb. Songs of the going up. Songs of people who were coming out of the valley headed for the presence of God, headed into Jerusalem, where God had placed his name and promised that he would always have his presence there. These are songs that were sung on the journey as they made their way to Jerusalem. And listen, while on their way, on their journey to worship, they worshiped on the road to get there. You got to understand that. While they were on the way to Jerusalem to worship God, they were worshiping as they came. And here's what I want to tell you today. Worship will help you keep your eyes focused in the right direction. It was the songs of worship that reminded them we're on our way to Jerusalem. It was the song of ascent that reminded them we're on our way to the presence of God. And the song of ascent that they sang as pilgrims help them to establish their direction, because direction will determine where you get to. Direction determines your destiny. David, it said, wrote the first two of the Psalms of Ascent. I want to read to you the second one, or part of it, Psalm 121, verse 1 and 2. It says, a song of degrees or ascents. I bet you've heard this. David said, I will lift up my eyes to the hills. The King James doesn't render it quite like this. The New King James establishes the second part of this as a question. From where does my help come? I will lift up my eyes to the hills. Where am I going to get help? And then he answers his own question. My help comes from the Lord. My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Written by the most famous psalmist, David, a man who had many times left Jerusalem and returned. He knew the pathways up the valley, out of Kidron, and out of the various valleys that surround the city on top of that hill. David knew the pathways. He had to escape from Saul. He had to get out quickly. He knew secret ways up and down. David knew every way up and down likely. He had been in and out of Jerusalem for many years and many times trying to escape, but supposed to be living in a city under the king's roof, and yet being chased out over and over. David knew how to get into Jerusalem. And if there was anybody that had a right to write this song, it would have been David, standing in the valley, in the low place, in the low point, looking up into Zion. That's where I should be, but this is where I'm at. I ought to be up there, but right now I'm in the middle of a fight. I'm in the middle of a struggle. I'm in the middle of betrayal. I'm in the middle of hurt. I should be up there, and how am I going to get there? And David says, I will lift up my eyes. I'm going to look at where I belong. How am I ever going to get back into Zion? I'll tell you how. The Lord is my help. And then he reminded himself, I know that Saul's got an army. I know that Saul's got armor. I know that Saul's got trained men. But I have the Lord who made the heaven and the earth. David had been that pilgrim. David was familiar with the city. He was familiar with the feasts, the worship. He was familiar with the days of memorial. He was familiar with the days of convocation. He had been that pilgrim, returning back to the place where he was supposed to be, only to be chased out again. It's a psalm that seems to be written from the vantage point of being in the valley below. Else David wouldn't have said, I will lift up my eyes. It's a song written, it seems, by a man who knows where he's going. He's been there before. He knows what awaits in the city. He knows that this is the city upon which God has placed his name. He knows that this is the place that God said, I will continually dwell in Zion. And that God who resides there is the God that is my help on this journey. Where am I going to get help? I'm going to get help from the one who made the heaven and the earth, who spoke the worlds into existence. So David opens his song saying, I will lift up my eyes. Notice that David doesn't talk about the desperation that he's in. He doesn't talk about how bad things are. He doesn't talk about the fact that I don't like the circumstance. He just opens it up and says, you know what? Forget the rest. I'm going to lift up my eyes to where I belong. I'm going to lift up my eyes to where I want to be. I want to lift up my eyes to where I'm going. I'll lift up my eyes to the hills. He's referring to the hills that surround that city that sits atop the highest hill right there, surrounded by valleys. And that phrase, lift up my eyes, it's interesting because you find it all over the Old Testament and you find it several times in the New Testament. And in every case, it doesn't mean quite what you think it does. It means, he says, I will lift up my eyes. What he's really saying is, I'm going to look in a particular direction. And when God speaks and says, lift up your eyes, God is saying, look where I'm pointing. And over and over and over, you hear writers say, I will lift up my eyes. And what they're saying is, I'm going to look that direction. I'm going to look over there at that situation. I'm going to look over there at that circumstance. Jesus said, look out into the field. The harvest is plenty, but there are no workers. Lift up your eyes and look. And that's exactly what it means. Don't look around. Look at what is supposed to be focused on. Lift up my eyes. So what David really said is, I'm going to look to the hills, because it's on top of the hills where the city sits. It's on top of the hills where I am headed. That's my destination. That's where I want to go to. And I don't have time to look around and have a pity party over what Saul has done to me. I don't have time to be upset about all the things that have happened, the times I've been betrayed, the problems. I don't have time for that because regardless of what else happens, regardless of how many times I'm hurt, regardless of how many times I'm betrayed, regardless of how many times I struggle, my destination is going to stay the same. I'm still headed to the hills. I'm still headed to Zion. It may be difficult. Somebody may hurt me. Somebody may talk about me. Somebody may try to destroy me. It doesn't matter. I'm still headed to Zion. Nothing's going to change that. And so I'll lift up my eyes to the hills. I don't have time to look at how high the valley is. I don't have time to look at how big the problem is. I don't have time to look at all the trouble. I got to keep my eyes on the hill because that's where I'm going. You see, your destiny will be dictated by where you look. Direction determines destination. And if you'll keep your eyes on the hills, you'll get there. You'll get there. Maybe the pictures help me. I can just see David. Maybe it was one of the days that Saul chased him out of the palace. And David has run as fast as he could out of the gate of the city, trying to make sure that none of Saul's soldiers, henchmen, recognized who he was. Out of the gate, down the hillside, down the road to the bottom of the valley. And I can just see David turn back around. So I will lift my eyes to the hills, because that's where I belong. And it's as if with his statement, David has a hand raised, pointing to the top of that hill. I'm going to look up there. Because that's what I will lift my eyes means. I will lift my eyes to the hills. So David, I see him in the valley and he's pointed up to the top. And maybe others don't know who he's talking to. Maybe he's only talking to himself. And others may be looking at him a little bit odd as David stands there and starts to sing a song saying, you see up there, you see at the top, you see the walls. I know that's Jerusalem, right? That's where I'm supposed to be. And so I'm going to keep my eyes up there. And he's pointing and he's pointing and he's pointing and he's singing the song. I will sing. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. I'm going to worship God. I'm going to trust him. He is the one that made the heaven and earth. So you're not going to destroy me. Doesn't matter how many times you kick me out of Jerusalem. I'm coming back because Jerusalem is where I belong. I'm going to be the king one day. I'm going to be in that throne room one day. So Saul, chase me out as many times as you want. But at the bottom, in the valley, I'm going to lift my eyes and I'm going to point again and say, I'm going back up there. That's where I belong. I know up there is the presence of God. I know up there is the worship that I want to be a part of. I know up there is where God has called me to. That's where I'm going. I may be in the valley now, but I will not stay. You got to understand, you'll go where you're looking. And if David wanted to get to the top, David, you keep looking up there, buddy. You just keep your eyes on where you want to go. You see, you can't ascend the mountain of God if you never lift your eyes beyond the valley of struggle. You can't climb the mountain when you're looking for four-leaf clovers in the valley. You can't climb the mountain when you found something in the valley that you like. You can't climb the mountain when you found a few friends that you get along with in the valley and just decided, you know what, maybe I'll hang out here for a little while. No, the valley's not where you belong. I know we go through them, but we don't pitch our tent in them. I know we go through them, but we don't hang out there. Instead, in the valley, somebody's going to make up your mind. I'm going to point to the hill. This is not where I belong. My victory is up there. My God is up there. His presence is up there. I can't hang out down here. I don't care how pretty it is. I don't care how nice it is. I don't care how many cool people I found. I don't belong in this valley. So I will lift up my eyes unto the hills because that's where I'm going. Direction. It determines your destiny. Determines your destiny. You won't reach the mountain of God staring at the enticements of a sinful culture and society. Maybe this is why one of my favorite songs, and Sister Amanda sings it on purpose every now and then, says, I'm going up yonder. Man, that's got to be your song in the valley. I'm going up yonder. This ain't where I belong. I'm going up yonder. Andre Crouch said, if anybody asked you where I'm going, very soon, you just tell them, I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder. Can you see him in the valley pointing? Hey, it's a complete stranger. I don't know you, but listen, I'm excited about something. I'm going up yonder. You want to go with me? I'm going up yonder. I'm not hanging out down here. This ain't where I belong. I'm going up yonder. Listen, if direction determines destiny, And where you look determines the direction that you establish. Then where you look is where you're going. And where you look is going to decide what your destiny is. So in the valley, in the struggle, I'm challenging somebody today. Lift up your eyes again. And as David said, I'm going to look to where I'm going. Where I'm at doesn't matter right now. It's where I'm going that matters. What I'm facing isn't what matters right now. It's where I'm going that matters. What I'm dealing with now is not what's important. It's where I'm going. And your direction establishes your destiny. So I just got to tell you today, come on, friend, look where you're going. Look where you're going. I don't know that there possibly could ever have been a day where we were inundated with more distractions than what are available today. I mentioned this past Wednesday that the average social media user right now is spending nearly 2.5 hours a day distracted, flipping through Instagram and Facebook, and 90+% of them are doing it on their cell phones. The TV is not much of a distraction anymore. It's Netflix and Hulu and Prime. Younger generations don't even care about the TV. Don't bother asking them who Gilligan is. And Mary Tyler Moore sounds like a cool name to name my kid because they're naming them all the old names now, right? If there has ever been a day, man, if you don't hear a word I say, listen to me right now. If there has ever been a day where we've got to fight to keep our eyes oriented, it's now. It's now. Because your direction is going to determine your destiny. There are scholars who are convinced that those 15 Psalms of Ascent were sung by the Levites. Sung as they climbed a particular flight of steps that led up from the base of the city into the court of the temple. 15 steps. They are there. 15 steps leading up. And many believe that they sang the 15 Psalms of Ascent as they climbed. Stepping on the first step, pausing, singing. Climb to the second step, pause, sing the next one. Next step, pause, it's Psalm 122. The next step, Psalm 123. The next step, Psalm 124. Songs of the climb. Songs of the ascent. Songs of worship as they made their way to the place of worship. You see, listen to me today. You can't worship too much. And there's not a place where worship is inappropriate. There's not a place where worship doesn't fit. There's not a place where worship should be out of the ordinary. And if you're in a place where you can't worship, you're probably in the wrong place. And it may be time to lift up your eyes to the hills and say, I don't belong here, because I can't worship here, but that's where I belong. And so I'm headed up the hill. I'm getting out of the valley. I'm getting out of the place of temptation. Singing on the journey. Singing on the climb. Singing when it's difficult. Singing. Worshiping. Because they knew their direction. They knew where they were going. We got to get this right. By the time we get to the temple, we better have all these songs right, so sing them. I'm going to teach them to my kids. We're going to sing them on the way. We're not going to play the alphabet game driving down the road. We're going to learn the songs of ascents game. We're going to sing the songs of the climb game. We're going to worship on our way to worship. We're going to lift up the name of the Lord on our way to sacrifice to Him. We're going to praise Him on our way to get into His presence there, because worship will help you establish your direction. It's really hard to get caught up in sin when your heart is full of worship. And I'm not talking about just singing a song. I'm talking about heartfelt worship that mirrors that old song. Then sings my soul. My very soul is exuding the worship. And when you get into that place, and when you stay in that place, you're not going to get caught in pornography. You're not going to have an affair. You're not going to get caught up in all the trash of this world. You're not going to get caught up in a whole bunch of craziness. Why is it? Because I'm looking where I'm going. I don't belong here. I'm headed there. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. That's my destination. How are you going to get there? Who's going to be your help? Psalm wants to assure you, the Lord, He will be my help. The same one that said, let there be, and there was. How many times did David say, the Lord is my shield and my buckler? I'll tell you why he said it so often. Because he learned it so many times. Old saying says, worship is not what I do. It is who I am. Consistent worship demands your eyes be on the cross. And the cross is still the place where the lost are found. The cross is still the gateway to our heavenly home. When you look to the right place long enough, you'll find that the rest of you adjust course and you'll go where you're looking. You can look to the left and walk a different direction for a little while. But anybody that drives a car knows this crazy thing happens. When you look out your window to the left, for some crazy, dumb reason, you turn your steering wheel left. You'll go where you're looking. You can look to the world that we live in for peace, but you won't find it. But if you'll look to the cross, you'll find what you're looking for. So if peace is what you need, look to Calvary and start walking. It's the only place you're going to find what you need. You can look to this world for security, but you won't find it. So if you're full of anxiety today, turn your eyes to the cross and start walking. I got to get there. I got to get there. I can't. Nothing else settles me. I can't find peace anywhere else. My wife won't mind me telling this, but years ago when we were traveling as an evangelist, she went through a very, very difficult time period in her life where she was just convinced that she was going to die before she even turned 30, before we ever had any children. She went. It was a months-long trial. It was a crazy thing, and I can't imagine the torment that she herself faced going through that. But she's told people over and over and over, the only place, I couldn't wait to get to church and get to pre-service prayer, because that was the only place that I didn't have all the fear. It was the only place that I didn't have all the anxiety. It was the only place that I wasn't tormented, was when I could get into the presence of God and I could be in His presence, and there the torment subsided. So listen, if you're full of anxiety today, I want to tell you, point your life at Calvary and start walking. Get there as fast as you can. Get there and wrap your arms around that old rugged cross. You'll find the security that you're looking for at Calvary. You can look into this world that we live in for healing for your past. But all you're going to find are scars and disappointment. And people that will scratch the scars and reopen the wound. So if you need heart healing, I'm telling you, point your life at Calvary and start walking. And walk until you're standing before that old rugged tree. Throw your arms around it and let God heal your hurts. I just feel the Holy Ghost so powerfully. Can we just take a moment and pray? God, in your name, it's time to adjust where we're looking. It's time to adjust. Oh God, I pray right now that you'll just work in someone's heart. Lord, you didn't send me to preach about how many people are pointing the wrong direction. You sent me to tell them, if you will go the right direction, I can heal what's broken. And I can mend what nothing else will. And I can supply what you can't get in any other place. Just come to Calvary. Just come to Calvary. I don't care how far off course you are today. I don't care how bad a mistake, how many terrible mistakes you've made. I don't care what you've done. I don't care how guilty you may feel. And I don't mean to say I don't care and it doesn't matter to me. What I mean today is none of that matters really. If you will reorient your life to Calvary. You don't have too much baggage for Calvary. You don't have scars that are too deep for Calvary. You don't have addictions that are too strong for Calvary. You don't have a past that is too tragic for Calvary. So look to Calvary and start walking. That it's always been said that Mount Calvary, it's a hill. So just like David at the bottom looking up, point your finger at that old rugged cross. I'm going up yonder. I'm tired of things down here. I'm tired of the way it is right here. I don't like living like this. I don't intend to continue. I'm going up yonder. If you wonder where I'm going, why are you hanging out at the bottom of this thing? I'm just catching my breath long enough because I'm about to climb. When I climb, I got a song to sing. I'm going to sing the song of the climb. I got to finish. It was a new experience for both of us. Probably a rather harrowing experience. We both had very, very different perspectives, I'm sure, on whether we were having fun or not. The speed was exhilarating. The power of an engine that was more powerful than the combined strength of hundreds of horses. Brakes that could bring you to a screeching halt in seconds or less. A steering wheel that responded instantly when it was turned, and on this day it was turned a lot because I was learning to drive and my dad was learning to hyperventilate. A nervous wreck. Dad looking over my shoulder. If you know my dad, he loves to give advice and instructions. He's got lots of it. But I found myself looking just a few yards beyond the front of the car, trying to steer it and keep it between the lines. Because I was looking such a short distance, I was in a constant mode of adjustment. steering this way, swerving left, swerving right. My father's about to have a coronary. Finally, he figured out what I was doing and what was wrong. He said, son, if you want to drive this thing, you need to look far enough down the road into the distance, not just a few feet in front of you. And when I did look down the road, suddenly there was no swerving. The adjustments stopped because I was looking where I was going, not where I was at. And I just really came to tell somebody today, it's really time to start looking where you're going, not where you're at. Time to start looking where you're going, not what you're fighting with. Look beyond your struggle to where you're headed and realize the struggle may slow you down, but the struggle doesn't end the journey. Look beyond where you're at and see where you're going. Because you may be in the valley right now, but I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder. You see? You see it up there? That's where I'm going. That's where what's up there? Jesus. What's up there? An old blood-stained rugged cross. What's up there? Peace. What's up there where you're going? Hope. What is up there on the top of that hill? Joy that's unspeakable. What's up there on the top of that hill? Anxiety that lifts off my life. Depression that takes the cloud and can't put it back over me. The spirit of oppression that tried to keep me in the valley. But I said, where's my help going to come from? It's going to come from the Lord. And the oppression can't imprison me in the valley. I'm going up yonder. You just got to look where you're going. Would you stand with me today? Historians have often called the Psalms of Degrees the Psalms of the goings up. They've also called them the Pilgrim Psalms. Typically only the wealthy, merchants or the Romans, rode much of anything in the first century AD. Everyone else just walked. Which seems likely why there would be so many references in the New Testament to walking and making it synonymous with life. My walk of life, my walk with God, my walk. The Apostle Peter, in his second chapter of his first letter, he addressed to those under his care, he said, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims. We're strangers in a strange land because this is not where we belong. The writer of Hebrews said of those mentioned as the heroes of faith, in Hebrews 11 and 13, he said, these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them and embraced them and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims in the earth. I don't belong here. And I don't have time to look at how bad things are right now. Or can I flip that? I don't have time to look at how good things are right here. I'm not staying. I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder. Because I'm a pilgrim. And I'm on a journey. And I have a very specific destination. It seems at times my destination is elusive, distant. I'm struggling to make headway. My pace is slowed. I'm getting distracted. And like those pilgrims of old, I'm just trying to get into the presence of God. What I've learned in the valley is that the best way to keep my eyes on the hill is to learn to worship while I'm climbing. To sing the songs of the ascent. To sing the songs of the climb. To sing the songs that remind me of where I'm going, so that I don't look down and realize how high I am, and my fear of heights distracts me, and I don't look to the left and see the danger of a lion or some other predator animal off in the distance and worry while I make it up. Instead, I just keep looking up, and if there's somebody with me, I catch them every now and then. Wait a minute, we're going up yonder. You can't stop here. You can't stop here. It's not time to camp. It's not time to hang out. We're going up yonder. We're going up there. This is not our destination. Paul wrote to the Ephesian church. He said, speaking to yourself in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, making melody in your heart to yourself. Come on, friend. Sing the songs. Sing the songs. That'll help keep you focused. Turn off the country music and turn on the gospel. Turn off Netflix and turn on your Bible. Or at least watch that new show they're doing depicting the Bible. What's it called? The Chosen. Best thing I've ever seen. If you need a good devotion, that's pretty stinking good devotion. You'll learn a lot. I'm going up yonder. As long as I can keep my eyes focused on that old rugged cross, I'm going to get there, because your direction determines your destiny. Let me finish with this. Years ago, Jim Collins wrote probably the most well-known book on business practice in the history of humanity. He speaks of the growth of a business, of the progress of a company, in terms of being on a bus. And over, Mr. Collins says, if the business is a bus and you can get the right people on the bus, your business can flourish. Your business can grow and progress. But you've got to get the right people on the bus. I just got to tell somebody today, you've got to have the right people in your life. Because when you get the wrong ones, you may take your eyes off the prize. You may allow your focus to be shifted because you filled your bus with those who didn't have the same goals. And I'm not telling you that you can't have friends that are outside of the church. I'm telling you can't have influences that are outside of the church. If there's going to be influence that happens, it needs to be you influencing them, not them changing your values, and not them changing and altering your conviction, and not them altering your direction. But you've got to get the right people on your bus so you can all sing together. We're going up yonder. We're going up yonder. We're going up yonder. I don't know where you're at today, but I have preached to a lot of people here. And I'm not dare going to end this service without saying there's a place to pray. And there's a lot of folks that probably need to today because every now and then we just got to check where we're looking. We have got to check what's going on. We got to make sure that we are focused on the right direction and we're headed in the right direction because direction determines destiny. So I'm not going to belabor this. I'm not going to beg and I'm not going to do a whole bunch. I'm going to say right now, come pray. Why would you not? What would hold you back? Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter if you're a member of the sanctuary. Doesn't matter how many mistakes you made recently. Doesn't matter how many times you messed up. Doesn't matter how many times you let a curse word fly. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Any of that doesn't matter. Right now, what matters is not where you're at, but where you're going. And Pastor came today to tell you you're going to go where you're looking. So get your direction right. Take a moment in this place and get your direction right. Take a moment today and examine and establish one more time. I'm going up yonder. This is not where I belong. I don't have time to look at where I'm at and be in the molly clubs. I'm going up yonder. And I don't know how I'm going to get there, but God's going to help me. I'm going up yonder. Come on across this place. Lift your hands and begin to call on the Lord right now.
If anybody asks you where I'm going, where I'm going so soon.
Jesus.
Oh, if anybody
now you know why I love this song. But this song, because this song doesn't care where you're